Hello, everyone. My name is John Vinsel. I'm a program manager at Microsoft. I own MSIX and most of the app deployment technologies in the Windows Developer and Experience division. Today, I'm here to talk to you about MSIX in the enterprise. So let's kind of look back at the year in the past and really where MSIX is today. So let's take a look at the supported platform for MSIX. So we launched MSIX with the 1809 version of Windows 10. And we quickly learned from customers, hey, we need support on more platforms, if not all platforms. So in February of 2019, we went ahead and added support for 1709 and 1803, giving you a lot of options to deploy MSIX in your enterprise. We also certified Windows Server 2019 for support with MSIX. Now with Server 2019, you only can deploy enterprise apps, so apps that you've built within your enterprise. We don't support the Microsoft Store for MSIX or just apps in general because it's a server SKU. And then lastly, we introduced MSIX Core for enterprises. So this is a slightly different variant of MSIX for your enterprise. MSIX Core enables you to standardize on the MSIX packaging format, but it runs it in an unvirtualized way. So it's a lot more like an MSI. So the uniqueness here is you get the ability to use that same package everywhere, but you won't get all the benefits of the MSIX platform, like the virtualization, the clean uninstall, and things like the differential updates. And then in response to developers, we did in the 2004 edition of Windows 10 remove sideloading. So if you remember prior, you'd have to enable this feature called sideloading to even use the MSIX feature set. Well, customers and ISVs had come back and say, hey, you've been saying this is the installer that you're standardizing on. Why isn't it just native to the platform like an XE-based installer and an MSI? So we responded, and starting in the 2004 edition of Windows 10, sideloading is no longer an option. It's just part of the platform. And then just a quick recap, for the last operating system that was kind of out there, 1703 did go end of life of in October of 2009. So what that really means is all the supported Windows 10 platforms have native support for MSIX. So let's kind of transition now and talk about some of the key features of Windows 10 2004 edition. First and foremost, we support delivery optimization. That was a big ask across enterprises. Enterprises really want us to take advantage of DO or delivery optimization to really help mitigate stress on their networks. I already talked about the removal of the sideloading enablement. And then the next thing that we went and did is we added support for repackaging apps with Windows services. So while we could go and repackage apps before, we were finding more and more that customers had, a small amount of apps with services that they wanted to move to MSIX. Now, these apps, they might not have had the source code for anymore, or they weren't under active development, but really wanted to take advantage of the MSIX technology. So we added the support to allow you to take that app and go and repackage it into the MSIX format. Now, one thing to note on apps with a service, this is one of the few times that will require an elevation to install an MSIX. If you remember from past talks, MSIX is a user-based and any user can install an app. Because of the nature of a Windows service and how it interacts at the system level, we'll need to elevate just because we need to actually interact at that level. And then the last feature that we went and added was what we call deferred registration, where you can see this actually really long command that you'd put in. And what this allows you to do is if you're deploying via PowerShell or you're using the enterprise CSP, or even if you're using the API, you can call defer registration. And if a user is currently running that app, what we'll go and do is lay down all the differential binaries. So remember we talked in the past about when we do an update, we only download the files that are needed. We'll go and pre-lay down those files. And when the user shuts down the app, we'll finish the update. So this way you don't have to interrupt your user from working, and you can get that update out to your users very quickly. The next feature that we added, I want to dive a little bit more into, is an improved package integrity. So if you were deploying apps from the Windows Store in the past or the Microsoft Store in the past, we had a really good tamper-resistant system in place. If you were deploying outside of the store, a lot of our integrity was really just at deployment time. And if an app got changed or altered after deployment time, we wouldn't always detect that. So what we've done now is we've actually enabled you to opt into a richer package integrity if you're not deploying from the Microsoft Store. And you can do this by simply putting this manifest entry within your app. And then what we'll do is periodically check that application based on the block map to know if anything has changed. If we determine that app has been changed or tampered, we'll actually go and put it into a remediation phase and not allow the user to run that app anymore. which is a good thing because that app isn't the initial app that you laid down. Now, this capability is part of Windows 10 2004, but the cool thing about this is you can go and put that manifest entry in, deploy those apps down level, and when you get to the 2004 edition of Windows, it'll inherit those properties and start taking on the new package integrity. So you won't need to update your operating system to deploy that app. It's just when you get to the new operating system, you'll take advantage of that feature set. And then just a note, the MSIX packaging tool can just set this value for you. So if you're a developer under active development, just add this into your manifest. And if you're repackaging apps using our packaging tool, there's just a setting and it will do it for you. Another great feature that we added in the 2004 timeframe was really around Windows Virtual Desktop, or WVD, and it's called MSIX App Attach. And MSIX App Attach is a way to do on-demand registration of apps, really allowing you to separate the apps, the user profile, and the operating system. This was available with the Windows Virtual Desktop 2005 release. Now, in the 2005 release today, you do need to do some manual configuration. So there's a series of PowerShell scripts that you run to get this up and running. But moving forward, we're actually going to do some integration into the WVD portal. And we're going to build in UX to Azure Resource Manager. We're going to have deployment and management integration along with monitoring. So as we move forward with the WVD offering, we're going to make it a richer, more ingrained experience for you. So while the feature set's available today, we are still building upon the admin experience for you. So let's transition over about how I'm getting to MSIX, and really let's recap the MSIX packaging tool. So lots has kind of gone on in the 2020 year. First off, in January, we added support for repackaging those apps with services. I talked about that earlier. We had a demand for apps with services needed to be packaged in MSIX. We went and gone ahead and added that to the January release. Same thing with that package integrity. There's a setting now that you can go into your settings and say, hey, I want to start taking advantage of this. And then we go ahead and pre-populate the manifest, and you don't even have to think about it. Just check the checkbox and your apps are going to take advantage. And then as we looked forward to the April release, one of the big pieces of feedback that we got was, hey, I sometimes need to go and edit the virtual registry. So can you make it easy for me to pull into a registry file? Or sometimes I'm diagnosing, some issues with the package, and I easily want to read that registry file. A lot of people like to export the registry file, open it up in Notepad to get a better view of it. So we added the ability to import and export registry files. We talk about the smart logic for MinOS. What that really means is as we're building more and more features that may light up with different versions of Windows 10, we don't want you to have to think about that. The packaging tool will do all that logic for you. And then lastly, what we did is we added support for MSIX core versioning. So while I talked about MSIX core a couple slides ago, it does require different OS manifest declarations. So if you're familiar with the AppX manifest in MSIX, you put the supported platforms you want to deploy to. By default, it was always Windows 10. With MSIX core, we gave you the ability to say, hey, I know this app only runs on Windows 8.1 and later. You can go and put that into the manifest. So we added some UX to really help with that. And in both of these releases, we consistently take feedback on our UX experiences and continue to improve reliability overall, making sure that you guys can get to easy repackaging of your applications. So again, we're always continually investing in the MSIX packaging tool. So kind of rolling forward, let's kind of look at what other features we had. July was a very exciting release. We'd spent a lot of time really around automation with the MSIX packaging tool. So we spent a bunch of time with customers and how can we make it super easy to convert via the command line. We've always had command line conversions, but we had heard some nuances of different installer lengths or commands causing issues. So we spent a lot of time really improving that command line support, making it easy for you guys to start doing bulk conversions of your applications. We also re-enabled the auto update push from the store. I didn't talk about this in the April release, but we temporarily had paused the auto updates. We're back on deploying some non-essential updates. So the July release is coming automatically from the store, or you can always download it from Download Center or from the Microsoft Store for Business. Now, as we look forward to October, and we're planning that release, we're really doing some more improvements to the workflows. We've gotten a lot more feedback as people are really using the tool, some optimizations we can do to the workflow. The first one we're going to go do is really make it easier to edit the way the services behave within the package. Sometimes people go and deploy the app out and they want to go edit the services, maybe change the way it starts up. we want to give you a great experience for that. Also, the application entry point, or people kind of think of those as the shortcuts. We don't have a really great way to edit those. We tell you to go and open the manifest and then change it through the XML file. We're going to create some UX for that to make it really easy for you guys to go and manipulate those entry points for your applications. And then again, with all these releases, we're really focused on reliability and bug fixes we hear from our customers. And if you're always interested in trying a new release of this tool, we do have our own insider program. So if you go to the link below, you can actually sign up for our insider program and get sneak peeks of the upcoming release of the tool. So right now you could get access to the October release, and then beyond that, we look forward to the January release because we are on a quarterly cadence for release of the packaging tool. Next up, let's kind of recap the package support framework. Just a quick overview for people that aren't familiar with the package support framework. The package support framework is a way for us to go in, kind of fix up an MSIX package if it's not behaving correctly. So occasionally you'll repackage, and things like the virtual file system might cause issues with the way the app runs. And the package support framework is a way, without modifying the operating system, that we can update that app without changing its code as well. So we have a few different fix-ups that we've learned from customers along the way. The first one's always kind of an interesting one, which is the write to install directory. A lot of apps still require writing to the install directory. In the Vista timeframe, we kind of asked people to kind of move away from that, but people still write like log files there. So you can enable this package support framework, and what we'll do is we'll redirect that right to the user's app data. So the app, thinks it's writing to the app install directory. It behaves like it normally does, and it continues to run great in MSIX. The next fix-up's a really simple one. It's just redirecting the current working directory. So, sometimes in the container, the working directory gets projected differently. This is a great way to go in, get that one fixed up. The third one is launching app with parameters. So this is like, I have a exe and I want to launch my exe, space / server equals John server. MSIX natively doesn't support parameters, but with the package support framework, you can go enable those parameters. Now, this feature in particular is something we're looking at for a future version of Windows to actually reincorporate back into the operating system. We've heard a lot of feedback that, with Win32 apps, people do want to go and still offer parameters at launch. So it's something we're investigating moving forward for, just core native support in the MSIX platform. And the last one's probably one of the more interesting ones that we heard from a lot of customers, and it's really running PowerShell scripts within the container. So we have a thing called the modification package, and that allows us to do customization above and beyond the MSIX package. So it's kind of like a greater version of the MST. You can deploy it at any time. You can modify the app in general. But what we were hearing is there's a lot of lightweight configuration where folks didn't want to use the modification package and just wanted to tweak a setting or two. And that's where the script support comes into play. You can put the package support framework and your PowerShell scripts in your package. And then on first launch or even every launch of the application, you can run a PowerShell script. And now you can run that script interactive, or it can be silent in the background. And this gives you the flexibility to do that lightweight configuration, maybe based on a user's OU or the location of the PC. Okay, so one of the other topics that comes up quite a bit is extensibility for apps. And we have a few different models for extensibility, really giving you a few options that whatever suits your need for you. So let's first talk about when you still have an app under active development. So if your app's under active development, we have a model called the optional package model. And this allows the app to be developed for one single shared container. There's a main app, which can just be a runtime. Like this main app can just literally be a framework with no shortcut, no entry point at all. And then each independent app can be built as an optional package. When you build these packages out, you declare a relationship between the packages. So the main app and the optional package, say they trust each other so that when they launch, they can run in the same shared container. The nice thing about this is each optional package can have its own independent entry point. So my HR app can have its own tile to launch, much like my billing app can have its own tile to launch. The apps can be deployed as a group, so I can deploy, my Contoso app suite along with HR, billing, and design, or I can just install a couple of the apps. So you have the flexibility in your distribution models, but still allow all those apps to be together and run together. The apps are serviced together, so if you need to make sure that they fully move forward together because they share common libraries, you want to make sure that all the communication paths are there and you don't corrupt data, we allow the apps to be serviced together. but you don't all have to service all the apps specifically. So you could just go and update your framework and your HR app, and your billing app can stay at version 1.0. The user for all this only sees one entry in add remove program, so they'll see it as a suite. And as you break up these optional packages, it won't litter what the user sees in their, their apps and features page. The other model we have is app extensions. Now, this is a little lighter weight model. This is kind of what we think of as like the plugin model. As your app that's under active development, you just declare yourself as an app extension host. And then anyone who wants to integrate with you or kind of be a plugin, they declare themselves an extension. Within your app, you can go and enumerate all the extensions. You can load whichever ones you want. You can prevent certain ones from loading. All the flexibility is on you as a developer. So maybe you determine that a plugin keeps crashing. From the app perspective, you can actually record that and prevent that from running, and really create a nice extensible model where you don't actually have to know and predefine those relationships. Again, you just declare yourself as a host, and anyone that wants to extend it, says I'm extension for this host. So again, you think about if you're a plugin for a writing app or a photos app, this is a great way to kind of go about that model and easily create extensibility for your application. Now, as we kind of transition over to kind of the IT Pro state, and we look at repackaged apps that aren't under active development, how do we kind of get to that? And this is something where you have forward looking for the next version of Windows, and this is our MSIX shared container. What this is a single shared container that an IT Pro can go and set boundaries around, and when apps are deployed, they'll be added to the shared container. So, if I had like 3 or 4 apps that shared common registry and common files, I could go proactively say, hey, here's a set of my container boundaries. And then as those apps are deployed, they get deployed into a single shared container. As an IT Pro, I can go and set the priority for conflict resolution. So we know sometimes they might fight for a certain registry entry. The order that is the right way to go do that. So you can go set that up, and as the apps are deployed, again, they'll be put into one shared container. At any point, you can change the boundaries of this container, so you can add apps, you can remove apps. The flexibility is all around the IT Pro. It is one single shared container, so the IT Pro owns that definition and the boundaries. But again, if you need to change things or things need to be, like I said, added or removed, it's all on the IT Pro to go and push an update for that for your users. Okay, this is another new feature that we added, really help enterprises out. If folks were familiar in the past, you could go to the apps and features page, and if your app was ever behaving badly, you could click on your app, and under advanced options, there was a reset option. What that reset does is it resets the registration of the app, things like file type association, protocols and such, and it also clears out the app data. What we are hearing from enterprises is, hey, this is cool, but if I determine my users having problems, I don't want to have to walk them through going into settings. Is there a way I can just easily script this and fix it for them? And that's where this comes in. It's really just a scriptable app reset. It's giving you guys an easy way to go and automate resets of app packages. Now, we don't expect this to happen often, but when it does happen, this is a great time saver for you because you can do it silently under the covers for your users without having to, get them on the phone or do an expensive help desk call. Now, this is coming in the next version of Windows, but it's already available in Insider Builds. So if you want to try it out, it's in the Insider Builds 2175 and later. So those are out there today. And you can just leverage the reset appx package command and then pass it your MSIX app name. All right, let's talk about what's coming in updates for developers. So we've been spending a lot of time with ISVs, and really one of the things that we heard is, hey, we love MSIX, but we want to distribute from our own website, or maybe I'm in an enterprise and I'm behind a firewall. How can I make it really easy to get my app updates? So if you're using the Microsoft Store, we have a great update story for you. Everything's there at auto updates. It's pretty seamless. What we're doing now is building a similar type of update path that allows you as a developer to register your own custom endpoint for updating. So the nice thing about this is all the information is included into your app package. If you're familiar with parts of MSIX, we had a lightweight auto update feature, kind of similar to ClickOnce, called the app installer file. But that required a custom file and your package to always be distributed, and there wasn't a lot of flexibility in how you can change those configuration paths. So moving forward, we're going to create a richer model that allows you to, first off, keep all the information in the package. Secondly, support more scenarios, like support for custom authentication. Right now we rely on the default authentication of the user, but we really want to have other third-party auth mechanisms in place, so you don't have to have all your content on an open network. We want to support online and offline scenarios. So in a case that you can pull your package offline, put it on USB key and install it. If it is connected to the internet, we still take advantage of those updates. Again, with some of our prior models like the app installer file, we would never take the update unless you took that secondary file. We know multiple artifacts are a little bit more cumbersome to carry around. So how do we create it, just like in a MSI world? If I install my MSI, it easily updates. How do we keep that same kind of model moving forward? And then really what we're looking at is, can we give you the flexibility within the app to do what you need to do on the back end? So if you want to change the way it updates for different flighting or different service delivery experiences, you can do that. So as we enable these auto updates, one of the things that we really want to keep in mind is what it means for an enterprise. And having a good set of controls for enterprise is key for us. So the nice thing about this model is we're centralizing the auto updates. So unlike Win32 apps where each one has its own updating service, each one has its own way to control it, we now have a centralized way to control auto updates either holistically or on a per app basis. So if you want to have a series of apps auto update, but maybe it's the end of the month and the financials are coming in, you can go and actually disable updates on a per app basis. Now, users will also have the ability to enable and disable updates via settings app. But if you've deployed an enterprise control, that would always supersede it, like all other policies in that case. Now, all these policies will be available through the enterprise management policy stack or scriptable via PowerShell. And then building upon this auto update feature set, we're really looking at finding ways to better self-heal or remediate applications. So if you remember earlier in my talk, I talked a bit about, hey, if we determine an app is broken, we can prevent that app from launching. We now want to make sure that we have a seamless flow to actually get that app back to healthy. So if you look at our Microsoft Store, anytime an app breaks, we either auto update it via the Windows update mechanism, or if a user launches it, we go and actually self-repair it. So now that we have more information about where we can go and update applications from, we're going to implement that for third-party locations as well. Now, again, we want to make sure we have the right enterprise controls in place. So obviously an enterprise can go and disable the automatic repair. But what's really cool is if the app is actually behind a firewall, they can set alternate locations to repair if they have access to the application package. Cool. And the last thing I want to talk about here is some improvements that we're going to do to the Azure CI/CD pipeline. We know CI/CD is really big for enterprises and just big for developers in general. And we want to make sure that MSIX is fluid and native into that workflow. So what I want to do now is take a first look at some of the work that we're doing for Azure DevOps. And really, it's all about some tasks that we're going to do to make it really easy to build MSIX. So here we have my Azure DevOps instance. Let's go check out my pipelines and see what I'm doing here. So for the sake of the demo, I've actually run a pipeline already. And if you go into the pipeline, you can actually see that I've easily built an MSIX package. In my package file, I have both the MSIX bundle and I have individual releases. So we have the ability to do either of those. So I'm going to go ahead and download the file here, just so you can see how easy it is to download and install. Here we have our friendly app installer app. And then I have my great app that's quickly installed, and you can see it launching. Pretty basic app. It says hello there. That's great. So what did I do to get all that working? So let's go and edit my pipeline here. And you can see here a couple things in the configuration. First off, I'm using the Windows 2019 configuration. That's what you need to leverage all the MSIX tools. And what we have here is a first look at a custom automation task, really built around all the things that you need to do for MSIX. Now, this is a first look, and we're actually going to probably change the design by the time this ships. We'll actually look to move it more into multiple task space to really allow you to pick the pieces that you need for what you want to do. So what you simply do here is you provide the information about your app, so the display name, links to your solution, and then from here you can choose to build the bundle, build individual packages, create your name, and then information about signing. So in this example, I used a self-signed certificate, but hopefully you'll use a real certificate moving forward. Lastly, we also give you the ability to build that app installer file. I talked a little bit briefly about it when we were chatting about updates, But really, this is a great way if you're doing some, lightweight updating within your enterprise. You can leverage that app installer file and we'll build it on the fly. And then lastly, and more importantly, which is pretty cool, is if you're using MSIX App Attach, we can natively build the VHDX for you. So if you're ready to get your app ready to go into App Attach, not only can you build your package for client deployment, you can have that MSIX App Attach VHDX ready to go for your Windows Virtual Desktop environment. So this is one of the ways we're looking at making it super simple and easy to build MSIX packages in Azure DevOps for you. So the last couple of things I want to talk about is really about education and getting information out on MSIX. MSIX is a great technology, but we want to make sure people can use it easily and are really familiar with the platform. The first part I want to talk about is MSIX Labs. We have a great set of labs really focused on deployment and packaging and the fundamentals of using MSIX for your enterprise. We recently updated our labs to add new features and exercises around the Windows 10 2004 feature set. You could download this today at aka.ms/MSIX-labs. Now, most of the labs are really around deployment and IT Pro focused, but we do have some developer labs coming soon. And this will be how do I start adopting more of MSIX in my development environment, as well as taking advantage of new features in the Windows 10 feature set. So stay tuned to that same repo and look forward to some of the developer labs coming soon. Another tool that we have out there, which is really kind of aimed more at IT pros, is the MSIX Toolkit. Now, the MSIX Toolkit is a series of scripts and portions of the SDK to really help IT pros when working with MSIX. Today, there's a couple scripts out there to really help with the command line automation of converting your existing apps to MSIX, and then a script around re-signing your packages. So maybe you're going and creating those apps in a test environment, and you want to hand them off to get signed by your production certificate. We have a script that's really easy to make that happen for you. So these are available today as well at aka.ms/MSIX-toolkit, and we have unique downloads for both x86 and x64, depending on your SDK needs. And then lastly, I just want to recap on our doc site. We do have a great doc site out there. We've recently revamped it, and it's really driven from the customer feedback that you've given us. A lot of our focus around the redesign of the site was making it scenario-based. Whether you're an IT pro or a developer, we have tracks in there to make it super easy for you folks to move your existing installers to MSIX, or if you're building new apps, take advantage of the MSIX feature set for you. So you can visit us at aka.ms/MSIX and look that over. We've also started adding customer success stories. A lot of people have been asking, hey, who out there is using MSIX? What were their experiences with MSIX? As we've been working with our top customers, we've been pulling in their experiences and adding them to our site. So you can easily go out there and see many customer journeys and how people are using MSIX and how it's been benefiting them in their enterprises. Now, just a reminder, all our docs are on GitHub. So if you see anything that you want added, maybe things don't seem accurate enough or need more explanation, just let us know your feedback. File an issue. My team takes care of those docs, and we happily work to make them better for you. And then as we look forward, MSIX is our continued investment moving forward. It is the installer technology we're investing in, and hopefully you can see we're trying to make a lot of additions to really, whether you're an IT pro or developer, be able to take advantage of the full feature set that is MSIX. Thanks for joining us, and as always, let us know your feedback. We're happy to take changes and make the features and products better for what you folks need to really adopt MSIX and make it the installer of your choice.